Yeah. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Shwapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Uta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Shahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakhanvitam He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kantha Radha Kantha Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Stuti Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Garadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangam hayate girim Yat kripa tamahang vande Sri Gurun Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hare Krishna. So welcome back again to our Bhakti Sastri class. So starting from today, we will have our regular classes for 2 hours and it will be only once a week. Yeah. So in our previous class 2 weeks ago, we have discussed that how sacrifice leading to the transcendental knowledge. So we will continue from that discussion. So hopefully today we can cover from text number 34 of chapter 4 up to the 5th chapter, text number 6. Yeah. So chapter 4, transcendental knowledge. This is called Jnana Yoga, summary of transcendental knowledge. Yeah. So this is the topic of our today's discussion, summary of transcendental knowledge. Having explained that all sacrifices lead to the transcendental knowledge, Krishna now describes various aspects of transcendental knowledge. To attain transcendental knowledge, one must control the senses and submissively approach a spiritual master to render faithful service to him. Thus, one will become free from sinful reactions and understand knowledge of his relationship with the Supreme Lord. Krishna urges Arjuna to arm himself with transcendental knowledge and fight. So we start with text number 34, and this sloka is very famous. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya parikshantite jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. Translation: just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively and render service unto him. The self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. So there are three things mentioned in this verse. So in order to understand a spiritual subject matter, first of all, we have to pranipat. Pranipat means to approach, approaching a spiritual master. And after approaching, of course, we have to approach with a humble mood, with submissive mood. And then pariprashna. Pariprashna means asking question. So asking question also in a submissive mood, not in the challenging mood. And then the third one is that sevaya, or rendering service. So these three items are very important in order to please the spiritual master. First, we have to approach him and then ask question and then serve him. So without serving him, actually, transcendental knowledge cannot reveal. Yeah. So we have to approach the spiritual master because Gyaninas Tattvadarsina, because the spiritual master has seen the truth. The purport Srila Prabhupada mentioned, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord therefore advises us to approach a bona fide spiritual master in the line of disciplic succession from the Lord Himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master without following this principle of disciplic succession. Yeah. So one of the qualification of a bona fide spiritual master is mentioned here by Srila Prabhupada, and that is the spiritual master should be connected with the parampara line, with disciplic succession. So of course there are so many qualifications which are needed in order to become a spiritual master. Like in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, we find the verse like, what is that? Yare deko darikaha Krishna upades amara agya guru hanatara edes. So this is the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Amara agya guru. So be guru. So unless one is ordered by his superior to become a spiritual master, so he cannot be empowered person. He cannot be empowered person. So first of all, he should be authorized. He should be connected with this with the disciplic succession. Secondly, he has to be authorized, authorized by his authority. The Lord is the original spiritual master, and a person in the disciplic succession can convey the message of the Lord as it is to his disciple. So therefore, we have to be connected with the disciplic succession, with this chain. So with the chain, so it's connected, just like wire. So if we don't connect with the wire, so the wire is supposed to be, for example, if we want to recharge our mobile phone, so that's like very gross and easy example to understand. So in order to recharge our mobile phone, so we have to connect the charger, the wire, into the socket and then plug it. That's how the electricity will be transmitted to the phone battery. So similarly like this, because Krishna is the original spiritual master, Krishna is the source of all knowledge. So in order to understand spiritual subject matter, we have to surrender to a spiritual master, and we have to surrender with these three items mentioned in this verse: paripratena, pariprasnena, and then sevaya. Approaching in a submissive mood, inquiring from him, and then serving him. Yeah. Jnaninas Tattvadarsina, because he has seen the truth. So we cannot uh, get money from somebody who doesn't have money. So similarly, also we cannot get knowledge from somebody who has no knowledge. So we have to approach somebody who has knowledge in order to get knowledge. So similarly, like this also, because the spiritual master, it is described that Krishna is the property of his pure devotee. So in order to get Krishna, we have to approach Krishna's pure devotee, because he can give us Krishna. So Krishna is not something or someone that we can approach by our own effort. So without the mercy of the spiritual master, we cannot get Krishna. We cannot understand Krishna Tattva. What is that? Satkarma Nipuno Vipro Mantra Tantra Visarada A Vaishnavo Guru Nashad Vaishnava Swapacho. So that's also one of the qualification of the spiritual master. A Vaishnava Guru Nashad. If somebody is not a Vaishnava, he cannot become a spiritual master. Vaishnava Swapacho Guru. Even if someone is born in the family of a dog eater, but if he is a Vaishnava, so he can be a spiritual master. Because only devotees can understand Krishna Tattva. Okay, this is a lecture by Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, suppose if you want to learn engineering, so you cannot go to a butcher. You must find out an engineer. You must admit yourself into the engineering college. learn how to practice engineering. Suppose if you want to become a medical practitioner, so you have to admit yourself in some medical college. Similarly, if you want to know about spiritual matter, then you must approach a spiritual master who knows the things. How you can learn it from anywhere and everywhere. One must be expert in spiritual knowledge. From him, you have to learn. Yeah. Just like Prabhupada gave the example here, if you want to become a doctor, for example, so you have to admit yourself in the medical college. You cannot uh, studying medical things simply, you cannot claim yourself to become a doctor simply by reading the book, but you have to be authorized graduate from the medical college. So like this is the art approaching the spiritual master. Sometimes people argue that why do I need to take shelter of spiritual master? I can learn spiritual subject matter from Srila Prabhupada's book. Yeah, so many devotees mentioning like that also. Well, most of the time that we don't understand what Srila Prabhupada is saying or what he meant in his book. Therefore, we need a spiritual master. Yeah. Next one, text number 35. Having obtained real knowledge from a self-realized soul, you will never fall again into such illusion, for by this knowledge you will see that all living beings are but but part of the Supreme, or in other words, that they are mine. This is some points from the purport I take here. The result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are, is learning that all living beings are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So this is the first level of realization. The first level of realization, knowing that we are not the body, we are the eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of Lord Krishna. So this is the first level of self-realization. Of course, the next level should be understanding our constitutional position and relationship, our sambandha with Krishna. The next one, absolute means that 1 plus 1 is equal to 1, and that 1 minus 1 is also equal to 1. So this is the meaning of absolute according to Srila Prabhupada in his purport. Therefore, we are saying the supreme absolute truth. Krishna is the supreme absolute truth. Just like in the Sri Sopanishad, the invocation prayer, mentioning the, what is that verse? Om Purnam Ada Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. So, Krishna is Purnam. He is complete. Although there are so many expansions, incarnations coming from Krishna, yet he remained complete. He remained complete, just like the ocean, for example. Just like the ocean, there are so many rivers. Well, let's say like this: when the ocean is evaporated in order to produce rain, so that is the hydrology cycles. So, in order to produce rain, the sun will extract the water from the ocean. Yeah. But no matter how much the sun extracting the water from the ocean remains still in its position. Yeah, it doesn't shrink. And also, it doesn't matter also how many uh, streams or rivers coming into the ocean. So the ocean also remain in its position. So Krishna is like that. So there are so many expansions, incarnations coming from Krishna, yet he remained remain complete, remain complete. So this is absolute. 1 plus 1 is 1. 1 minus 1 is also 1. So he's the complete whole. Perfect knowledge is that the Supreme Soul Krishna is the supreme shelter for all living entities. So this is the another level of self-realization. So this is the first one, the result of receiving knowledge from a self-realized soul, or one who knows things as they are. So the first one is the first level of self-realization, understanding that we are not the body, we are the eternal spirit soul, part of Krishna. And then higher to that is understanding that Krishna is our shelter, the supreme shelter of all living entities. Samasrita se padapallava plavam mahat padam punya yasho murare bhavam budir vatsa padam 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 yadvi padam natesham. So that verse is explaining Samasritashe Padapalava. Lord Krishna's lotus feet is compared just like a boat by which we can cross over the ocean of material world. So those who are taking shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, the vast ocean of material existence will shrink, will become so small, and it just like it's compared just like the water contained in a hoof print of a calf, of a baby cow. So that's how it is when we take shelter at Krishna's lotus feet. Deluded living entities become situated in Krishna consciousness. It is to be understood that they are on the path of liberation, as confirmed in the Bhagavatam, Muktirihi Tvayanta Rupam Swarupena Vyavastitihi. Liberation means to be situated in one's constitutional position as eternal servitor of Krishna, or Krishna consciousness. Yeah. So the point that Srila Prabhupada is making here is that we cannot claim somebody to be dirty when he is under the shower. Yeah. So when somebody is taking shower, he's under the shower, we cannot claim that person to be dirty because he's in the process of cleaning his body. So soon he will become clean. So similarly, the deluded living entities or the conditioned jiva, as soon as he engages himself in Krishna consciousness, in Krishna's service, although still there are so many impurities within his heart, so we cannot claim him to be sinful actually, because he is already situated in his original position. He's trying to serve Krishna, he's trying to rectify himself. And very soon, Sipram Bhavati Dharmatma Saswachantim Nigachati Konteya Pratijanihi Nami Bhakta Pranashati. So very soon he will be Sipram Bhavati Dharma. Very soon he will be situated in his original position. So this is one of the significant points that we can learn in life, especially in the association of the devotees. Sometimes we see the devotees still having some um, bad habits or any kinds of anarthas, apparently, but we cannot really judge that person to be, to be a sinner or a negative person, because however that person is chanting the holy names first of all, and he tried to engage himself in serving Krishna and also the devotees. So it's just a matter of time that that person will obtain his purity. Yeah. The next verse, this is also one of the classic verse in the one of the classic verses in the Bhagavad Gita, very famous. Api chet asipavebhya sarvebhya papakrittamah sarvam jnanam plavenaiva vrijinam santarishyasi. Even if you are considered to be the most sinful of all sinners, when you are situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, you will be able to cross over the ocean of miseries. So there is a hope here. Even if you are the most sinful man among the sinners, but if one is situated in the boat of transcendental knowledge, so there is a hope that he can cross over the material existence. Especially, uh, we have tasted actually the sweetness. We have relished the sweetness of Krishna consciousness activities and service to Krishna. Well, sometimes, somehow or other, we may leave the movement for sometimes, but in many cases, those who left Krishna consciousness movement, eventually they will come back again. Because, however, that impression is actually remain there eternal in their heart and in their mind. Well, the famous example is just like Ajamil. So Ajamil, in the beginning of his life, he was a very dutiful Brahmana. He's worshipping Salagram, Narayan Sila. So somehow or other, he got trapped by Maya. His mind becomes illusion, and he got married with a prostitute finally. But after all, he came back again to Krishna consciousness. The boat of Krishna consciousness is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Uh, so one time I heard a class by one senior devotee. So he said that this Krishna consciousness movement is just like a boat by which actually this boat helping us to cross over the material existence. Of course, within the association of the devotees, especially we are in ISKCON, we are in the religious institution. Somehow or other, we are joining this religious institution, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. Sometimes there are some fight among the devotees, but there is one very important principle that while we are uh, inside the boat, although there are many people fighting here and there, screaming or whatever, the main principle is that don't jump out from the boat. Don't jump out from the boat. Because this boat will help us to cross the ocean and reach our destination, right? If we jump out from the boat, then we fall down into the ocean. So similarly, Krishna consciousness movement, there are so many things happening. Okay, we cannot say that there is no problem at all. Well, in fact, there are some problems, but the main principle is that never left Krishna consciousness movement. Never left Krishna consciousness movement. That's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned here. It is very simple, but at the same time, the most sublime. Naiva dvije paro duratyaya vaitaranyas twadvirya gayana mahamrita magna cheta. Prahlad Maharaj says in the seventh canto that because in Krishna consciousness movement, within the association of the devotees, we can get the opportunity to glorify and hear Krishna Katha, to glorify Krishna and hear Krishna's glorification and his devotees' glorification also. Mahamrita Magna Cheta. So the mind should be absorbed in Krishna Katha. Then Naivo Dvije Paro Durat Yaya Vaitaranyas. So this ocean, which is very difficult to cross over, it becomes easy for us to cross it over when we take shelter in a good association amongst the devotees. Therefore, to have like-minded association is very important because that helps us, encouraging us to perform devotional service. Yeah, in the purport also Srila Prabhupada mentioned, in the ocean, however expert a swimmer one may be, The struggle for existence is very severe. If someone comes forward and lifts the struggling swimmer from the ocean, he is the greatest savior. Perfect knowledge received from the Spirit, from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is the path of liberation. Jivetayo mukti pade sadhaya bhat. So Jivetayo mukti pade sadhaya bhat. Liberation becoming uh, the rightful claim for those who remain in Krishna consciousness, no matter what happened. Yeah, just remain in Krishna consciousness. Liberation becoming our rightful claim. So that was the prayer of Lord Rama in the 10th canto, chapter 14 of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Srila Prabhupada giving a very nice example here. Even though one may be very expert in swimming, but in the ocean, because the wave is so big, one may be tossed here and there, and also there are many big aquatics or even shark, timingala, big fishes. That is dangerous for us. So if somebody is helping us, uh, so there is a hope by which we can be saved from this ocean. The example is just like Gajendra. Gajendra is the king of the elephant, and not ordinary elephant, but elephant amongst the heavenly beings. And he was so powerful, but yet he was trapped in the water, attacked by a crocodile. So although he's so powerful, but he was in the wrong place. If he's on the land, then it's easy for him to defeat the crocodile. But he was inside the water, so crocodile becoming stronger, and he was exhausted, although he was so powerful. Then there is only one hope for him, and that is calling upon Krishna, asking for his shelter. Madrik Prapana Pasupasa Vimoksanaya. So Madrik Prapana Pasupasa Vimoksanaya. He said that although I am a Pasu, I am an animal, Vimoksanaya. I also want liberation. Maybe I'm not deserved because I'm in the body of elephant. It is described that he remained conscious of his previous identity as King Indrajumna, while in the body of the elephant. Therefore, he prayed, Madrik Prapana Pachupasa Vimokshanaya. I want liberation. I maybe not deserve to get liberation because I'm in the body of animal. Animal considered to be low birth. Mokshanaya. So that's how Lord Krishna saved him, because he's praying to the Supreme Lord, asking for shelter. Yeah. Text number 37. As a blazing fire turn firewood to ashes, O Arjuna, so does the fire of knowledge burn to ashes all reactions to material activities. Perfect knowledge of self and super self and of their relationship is compared herein to fire. This fire not only burns up all reactions to impious activities, but also all reactions to pious activities, turning them to ashes. So this is Krishna consciousness, knowledge in Krishna consciousness, action, activity in Krishna consciousness will burn both pious and impious credit that we have. Yeah, because the pious credit that we have, that will bind us, by which we can go to the heavenly planet and enjoy there. So there is a possibility of forget being forget because being forget to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, because too much enjoyment in heavenly planets. Therefore, actually this life life in earthly planet is actually the most suitable place where we can actually engage in Krishna service and attain the perfection, because in the hell too much suffering, and then in the heaven too much happiness. But here everything is balanced, distress and happiness is there. So yeah, Krishna consciousness activities will also burn the pious, the reaction to pious activities. Therefore we don't create, when we engage in Krishna consciousness activities, we don't create material punya. So it is transcendental. Therefore, it burns also the reaction to the pious activities in order to liberate us. Because small tinge of any pious material, pious punya that we have, that will keep us bound in the material world. So Srila Viswanath Chakravarti Thakur comments, Krishna says, for one whose heart has become purified, I destroy completely whatever karma has already been generated, with the exception of his prarabdha karma. Transcendental knowledge thus destroys all reactions, both pious and sinful, all that is except prarabdha karma or mature reactions, such as one's present material body. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explained here. Quite interesting. I found quite interesting. Therefore, I put up here that the prarabdha karma, generally there are three types of karma. One is sanchita karma, second is prarabdha karma, and then the next one is agami karma. So sanchita means the reactions which is not yet mature, the reaction from the previous life, for example, that should be um, enjoy in this life. We enjoy or suffer because of the previous life. So at that time, the reaction is still not mature. Therefore, in this life, we have to get it. So prarabdha karma means the mature reactions, that the present the present situation is called prarabdha karma. And then agami karma means that we are doing something now for the next life, for the future. That is called agami karma. Sometimes agami karma is also called kriyamana karma. Sanchita, prarabdha, and kriyamana. So there is a question here by Nagarjun Prabhu. He wrote to me directly. So I just read aloud. Can we go to Godhead from heaven, Prabhu? Or earthly planet is only place where we can go to Vaikuntha? Ah, we can go to Vaikuntha from anywhere actually. But I was saying that this place is the most suitable place. In heaven also, mm, from heaven we can go to the Vaikuntha, or even from the planet of Brahma also, people can go to Vaikuntha. The only condition is that just devotional service, continue devotional service. But I was saying that in heaven, sometimes there is an opportunity, there is a situation by which we are forgetting Krishna because too much enjoyment. We know that all these demigods who occupy the administrative position in heaven, they are all devotees. They are all Krishna's devotees. But sometimes, because too much enjoyment, they may forget of their original position as Krishna's servant. Like Indra, for example, many times we found that how Indra sometimes he forget with his original position as Krishna's servant because too much enjoyment. The only condition by which we can go to Vaikuntha is service to Krishna. Of course, we can serve Krishna anywhere. Narayana parasarve nakutaschana bibyati swarga apavarga narakesu apitulyartha darsina. Whether we are in heaven or we are in the hell, we can serve Krishna. But the tendency, I was mentioning the tendency in heaven, because too much enjoyment, sometimes we forget. Just like here also in the earth, those who are rich, sometimes they are saying that, why I have to worship God? I have everything. Those who are too poor, too much suffering in their life, also they are saying that God, oh, let me think about God later. Now my priority is that what I should eat, I have to get something to eat. The hell also like that. Too much punishment. There is no time to think about God. But this is the most suitable place. Earth is most suitable place. Even some demigods, they wanted to come to this earth, especially now in the uh, first 5,000 years, first 5,000 or even first 10,000 years, first 10,000 years of the Kali Yuga. So this is the golden age, the first 10,000 years. So like that, we can go to Vaikunta from anywhere, but whether uh, will be remain fixed if we have a very strong faith, very strong determination. So it doesn't matter wherever we are, we can engage in Krishna service. But in most cases, we are not so determined. Therefore, little suffering and little happiness is required. Otherwise, we may live Krishna consciousness also if there are too much suffering or if there are too much material opulence. We become slackened in our practice. Okay. Text number 30, 38. Kalenatmani Vindati. Very interesting statement here. In this world, there is nothing so sublime and pure as transcendental knowledge. Such knowledge is the mature fruit of all mysticism, and one who has become accomplished in the practice of devotional service enjoys this knowledge within himself in due course of time. So Krishna is mentioning here, in due course of time, kalenatmani vindati, because not that, of course, there are so many praman in the scripture that as soon as we chant the Hare Krishna mantra, chant the holy name of Krishna, immediately we will be freed from sinful reactions. So that's true. It is completely uh, true that any statement in Shastra completely true. Like what is that? Many verses. For example, like in the Garuda Purana, it is mentioned. Avasena piyanamni kirtite sarvapatakai puman vimuchyate sadhya simhat rastrair mrigariva. So simhat rastrair mrigariva, just like a roaring lion. So when the lion is roaring, so all the animals will be running hither and thither upon hearing a lion roaring. So similarly, when we chant the holy name of Krishna, all our sinful reactions, sins, millions of lifetimes, will be immediately destroyed. So that statement in Garuda Purana is completely true. But the problem here is that how do we chant Krishna's name? How do we chant Krishna's name? That's also matter. Therefore, Krishna is mentioning here in due course of time. That means the purificatory process is taking place gradually. So gradually, it is not that as soon as we join Krishna consciousness movement, we become pure devotee. So there is gradual process, gradual process. Therefore, it is called Cheto Darpana, cleaning of the heart. So this is the process, chanting of the holy name, yeah, constant chanting, because our tendency to sin is still, very strong, because we've been sinning for millions of lifetimes. So not so easy just to, eradicate all these bad samskaras, which is there, sticking very strongly in our heart. Therefore, Krishna mentioned here, in due course of time. Ignorance is the cause of our bondage, and knowledge is the cause of our liberation. This knowledge is the mature fruit of devotional service, and when one is situated in transcendental knowledge, he need not search for peace elsewhere, for he enjoys peace within himself. Yeah. Of course, uh, even while practicing devotional service, Krishna consciousness activities, sometimes material desire may arise within our heart. Well, I believe that's normal for most of us in the material world, even among the devotees, to have material desire. I think that's still a common scene, yeah, normal things, because you know here we are. Our life is full of material desire, and to be completely free from that is not so easy. But as Krishna mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Puryamanam achala pratistam samudram apa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kamayam pravishanti sarve sa santim apnoti sa santim apnoti. So the devotees, although sometimes the material desire fluctuated within their heart, but the art is that just ignore it, just like the wind blowing. Okay, let the wind blow and go. That's how we have to deal with material desire. Okay, we know it's not good for our spiritual advancement, this material desire. Okay, just try to tolerate and it will go, it will go. So just ignore it. Sasantim apnoti, remain santi. Once we get agitated and then act upon that, try to fulfill that desire, then trouble will come to our life. Yeah. And in many cases, even upon reacting to that material desire, and seemingly we are committing like very abominable things in life, as devotees, it is we will, we feel regret, we feel regret badly, we feel regret. Why I'm doing this? It's so stupid. Why? Therefore, just remain something. After all, it's just like a barking dog. Just let the dog bark. Once the dog tired to bark, it will stop. Yeah. Yeah. Here, why Krishna uses the word kalena in this verse? Come back to that statement again. By the due course of time, why Krishna uses the word kalena in this verse? So this is a quotation from Surrender Unto Me. I take it here because I found it interesting. Kalena means in course of time. Krishna uses the word kalena to warn against premature renunciation, simply adopting the outer garb of a sannyasi, as is sometimes done by Mayavadis, as if that will automatically fix us in knowledge and free us of sin. Krishna also uses term kalena to encourage detached work, which truly bestows transcendental knowledge in course of time, indicates that transcendental knowledge is gradually revealed, you see, gradually revealed in the heart of one practicing Niskama Karma Yoga by work, not by renouncing, not by renouncing work, it manifests. So by work, work in devotion is better than renouncing the work. So this is the principle here. So Kalena means by the due course of time, in course of time. So don't expect that, you know, don't be a renowned person prematurely, as it is mentioned here. That doesn't mean that by taking a by wearing a saffron cloth, one becomes immediately renowned. Well, not at all true. It's not at all true. So yeah, last week, last week I was giving the ISKCON Disciple course. So I was explaining about regarding the following, the four regulative principles. The four regulative principles. The first one is that no meat eating. So what we were discussing about no meat eating, the deep meaning of no meat eating is not simply to eat, not simply to avoid eating meat, but more important to that is that not to eat whatever not offered to Krishna. So one devotee is asking, but Prabhu, sometimes in some situation, for example, some situation, we are forced to eat something which is not offered to Krishna. And how is that? So my response to that was like, well, because first of all, we still have some attraction towards something that not offered to Krishna. Sometimes we just grab some food and then mumble little mantras, especially the mantra Sri Vishnu, that's very famous mantra. But that mantra is only a mantra for purifying the water, actually. So then I said that, yeah, but you see, this is the fact that not that at once we become completely detached as soon as we chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. In fact, we still have material desire. But by keeping chanting, continue chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, we will gradually become purified and lose our taste toward whatever which is not offered to Krishna. Sometimes we find that some devotees, they are making pizza, for example. They love pizza, but at the same time they have a higher consciousness that this pizza first of all should be offered to Krishna. So he will not eat that pizza before offering it to Krishna, although he loved pizza very much, but he will eat only pizza which is offered to Krishna. Anyway, I think we've been discussing this in the beginning of our class a long time ago. Yeah. So in course of time, yeah, Krishna wants to encourage us that don't expect immediate result. There is a gradual process. Sometimes we are thinking after many years chanting, why I still have material desire. Yeah, in course of time, Krishna in the form of time will reveal himself as much as how much we are surrendering to him, how serious we are in our Krishna consciousness practice. Text number 39. A faithful man who is dedicated to transcendental knowledge and who subdues his senses is eligible to achieve such knowledge. And having achieved it, he quickly attains the supreme spiritual peace. Spiritual peace, Bhaktaram Yagyatapasham Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam. So these three things. Gyatva Mam Santim Richati. So Gyatva Mam. Those who knows this fact about me, this truth about me. Santim Richati. He is the only person who can attain peace. So we are looking for peace actually. Srila Prabhupada explained that without peace, happiness is impossible. So first of all, we have to be peaceful. Such knowledge in Krishna consciousness can be achieved by a faithful person who believes firmly in Krishna. One is called a faithful man who thinks that simply by acting in Krishna consciousness, he can attain the highest perfection. Mm. So without any other processes. For example, uh, the devotees, Srila Rupa Goswami explained that one of the symptoms of a devotee who has obtained bhava, that he has full faith to Krishna, he has full faith to Krishna, that no matter what, hope against hope means that only Krishna, there is no other way, only Krishna. Yeah, faith. This faith is attained by the discharge of devotional service. So, because like in the 9 steps from faith to Krishna Prem, we see that faith is situated at the bottom. So, little faith will bring us to association with the devotees. Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and then Bhajana Kriya. Because in the association of the devotees, we'll be engaged in Krishna service. So the devotees will engage us. So that's why Srila Prabhupada mentioned here that faith is attained by discharge of devotional service. So by devotional service, engaging ourselves in devotional service, that faith will becomes firm, will become firm. Yeah. So like faith and Sadhu Sangha, Shraddha and Sadhu Sangha, both of them actually supporting each other. When we have little faith, we start associating with the devotees. The more we associate with the devotees, the more faith, the more Shraddha will be developed in our heart. Shraddha rathir bhaktir anukramishyati satam prasangan mama virya samhidam. So, in the association of the devotees, faith will be aroused. Shraddha, rati, attraction, more attraction toward Krishna. Shraddha, ratir, bhaktir, and devotional service. And by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, which cleanses one's heart of all material dirt. Over and above this, one should control his senses. So by the performance of Sankirtan Yagya, so Sankirtan means Sangha Kirtan. So chanting in the association of the devotees. And at the same time, we have to try to control our senses. We have to try to control our senses. So simply trying to controlling the senses without engaging ourselves in Krishna service, so it doesn't work. But the senses will be automatically controlled when the senses is engaged in the positive activities or engaging it in Krishna service, especially with the chanting. Chanting is so powerful. Therefore, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that when we can control our tongue, all the other senses will be automatically controlled. Ata Sri Krishna Namadi Nabhavet Grahyam Indriyahi. Rupa Goswami also explained that Sevan Mukhe Hiji Hwa Dao, engaging the tongue in the chanting of the holy name and tasting prasada. That's how we can control the tongue. And when tongue is controlled, all other senses will be automatically controlled. Because food is also matter. What types of food we eat, that actually will influence the activities of the senses. A person who is faithful to Krishna and who controls the senses can easily attain perfection in the knowledge of Krishna consciousness without delay. Text number 40. Agyascha sradadanas samsayatma vinashyati. But ignorant and faithless persons who doubt the revealed scriptures do not attain God consciousness. They fall down. For the doubting soul, there is happiness neither in this world nor in the next. Yeah. Men without faith in God and His revealed word find no good in this world, nor in the next. For them, there is no happiness whatsoever. One should therefore follow the principles of the revealed scriptures with faith and thereby be raised to the platform of knowledge. Only this knowledge will help one become promoted to the transcendental platform of spiritual understanding. In other words, doubtful persons have no status whatsoever in spiritual emancipation. One should therefore follow in the footsteps of great acharyas who are in the disciplic succession and thereby attain success. So we have so many doubts in life, definitely. And many people, they don't believe in the Shastra, in the scriptures. They are faithless. They don't believe in Shastra. So Krishna is explaining here that for them, there is no happiness at all, actually, whether in this life or in the next. Therefore, Prabhupada, he mentioned in his purport that one should therefore follow the footsteps of great acharyas. Mahajano yena gata sapanta. We have to follow the footstep, following the footstep of the Mahajana, great devotees. And first of all, Shraddha, following the Mahajana with Shraddha, with faith. Because without faith, actually, whatever we are doing in terms of spiritual practice, that will be useless. Of course, in Krishna consciousness, yeah, something, little thing, Niha Vikramana Sosti Pratyavayo Navidyate Swalpam Apyasha Dharmasha Trayate Mahatavaya. So Swalpam Apyasha Dharmasha, little advancement in Krishna consciousness practice, that the credit will remain there and that will be very helpful for us to save us to be degraded to the lower form of life. But of course, faith is matter. Faith is matter. Ashrada dana purusha dharmasya shya parantapa. Aprapya mam nivartante mrityu samsara vartmani. This verse we will find in the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, that Asrada, Krishna explains that without faith, then the result will be coming down again to this material world, mrityu samsara vartmani. So therefore faith is matter. Yeah, Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur differentiates between faithless and the doubters. Very interesting. They look similar, faithless and doubter, but Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur differentiate between the two. First, he explained that Krishna has mentioned three classes of people who fail: the ignorant, agyaha; the faithless, ashradadana; and the doubter, samsayatmana. Samsaya. Samsaya means doubt. Asrada means faithless. Ignorant is clear. Ignorant means you don't know what is what. Faithless means you know something, Uh, you know some statement from the scriptures, but you don't have faith to that. And then doubters means, yeah, sometimes you think maybe this will work or this also may not work. Yeah, here. The agya is foolish like the animals. So that's clear. Foolish like the animals. The ashradada, the ashradadana has knowledge of Shastra, but having seen the mutual disagreements of proponents of various theories, he has no trust in any of them. So the faithless, they have knowledge of Shastra, but they don't trust it. They don't trust. Although the samsayatma has faith, means the doubter sometimes they have faith. He is swayed by doubt. I don't know whether this process will be effective in my case. Doubters had some faith, but they nevertheless doubt that following Shastra will truly award result. They thus follow, but without full faith. So faithless means completely no faith, but doubter means they have little faith. They have very little faith. Hope and optimism. Such doubters achieve happiness neither in this world nor the next. Even fools attain some material happiness. Doubters attain none. Yeah. So the foolish, just like the animals, Prabhupada explained yesterday in the morning. I was listening to one of Srila Prabhupada's lectures. He mentioned that the animals, the pigs, the hogs, they're actually their life is so miserable, full of suffering. But because they don't have knowledge about the reality in life, so they are thinking so happy that eating stool, sleeping on the dirty place. Yeah. So they feel so happy, but according to our estimation, according to our vision, that kind of living is so nasty, so miserable actually. The Srimad Bhagavatam in the third canto, Mahatma Vidura explained, uh, Yascha muda tamo loke yascha buddhi param gata. Tau bau sukam edete klishatyantarito jana. So there are two types of people in this world who will be completely happy. The first one is that yascha muda. Muda tamo means those who are grossly foolish, ignorant. So they will be always happy, just like a madman, a crazy man, always smiling, laughing, always happy. And then yascha muda tamuluke, yascha buddhi param gadha. Then the another type of person is that the Paramahamsa. They always happy. So both the grossly foolish and the Paramahamsa, they will be always happy. Grossly foolish because they don't know anything, so they consider that their life is all right and always happy. And the Paramahamsa because they know the reality in life. So whatever happening to their body, so they completely aware that actually I'm the eternal spirit soul. I have nothing to do with this body. When somebody insults me, that means he's simply insulting this material gross body. So he's not insulting the jiva because the jiva is remain pure. So in that way, he remain happy, engage in Krishna service. Tau bau sukam edite klishati antarito jana. So klishati antara. So the between the two, between grossly foolish and the Paramahamsa, uh, that's actually most of the people in the world. They are always miserable. Klishati antarito janaha. Klesha means suffering. So just like many of us, once I heard a lecture by one senior devotee mentioned that one time you attend the Bhagavad Gita class, that means you are belong in the uh, in the category of this one, between the two, because you know the reality, but at the same time you cannot follow it. You cannot follow it perfectly. Yeah. Okay, text number 41. One who acts in devotional service, renouncing the fruits of his actions, and whose doubts have been destroyed by transcendental knowledge, is situated factually in the self. Thus, he is not bound by the reactions of work, O conqueror of riches. When a person applies transcendental knowledge to work, he will both act dutifully and renounce the fruits of his actions. Such a person is actually situated in the self. He knows he is not the body. He knows that work performed for Krishna's pleasure will not bind him with reaction. His transcendental knowledge has removed his doubts. So, come back to the second chapter of the Gita where Krishna mentioned karma nivadikaraste ma phalesu kadachana ma karma phala heturbhur mate samgosto karmani. So our duty is just to engage in Krishna's service, whatever he ordered, we have to do that and remain sober, remain equal with both failure or success, because ultimately the result will be awarded by Krishna. If we deserve success, so that's okay, that's great. If we fail also, well, we have to understand that we deserve that. Everything is arranged by Krishna, so I'm just doing my duty. So in that way, we will not be bound, we will not be bound by our actions in this world, because we simply put Krishna in the center. Our aim to do everything is to please Krishna. Samsiddhir Hari To Sanam. Therefore, the doubts which have arisen in your heart out of ignorance should be slashed by the weapon of knowledge. Armed with yoga, O Bharat, stand and fight. Yeah, so this doubt uh, can be destroyed by transcendental knowledge, by transcendental knowledge, and not only with the knowledge actually. When that knowledge is applied in our life, practical knowledge, yeah, that's actually we can, I would say, we can get the utmost benefit of the scripture. Simply knowing something but not applying it in life, well, it's okay, it's nice to know something, but more than that is to apply it in our life. Just like we know that attentive chanting will bring great result for our spiritual advancement, but still we fail to do that. We fail, many of us fail to do attentive chanting. In fact, in my life is actually attentive chanting and attentive hearing is, I consider to be a great tapasya in Krishna consciousness. It's hard for me to be attentive while chanting and also while hearing. The yoga system instructed in this chapter is called Sanatan Yoga, or eternal activities performed by the living entity. Yeah. So Prabhupada explained in his purport there are two types of yoga: sacrifice of one's material possessions and knowledge of self. So sacrifice of one's material possession. If sacrifice of one's material possession is not dovetail for spiritual realization, then such sacrifice becomes material. And knowledge of the self, pure spiritual activity. So something when it is connected to Krishna, so that becomes transcendental, spiritualized. Yeah. But if we sacrifice something, but not in Krishna consciousness, so that becomes remain material. That remain material. Two levels of spiritual knowledge. The first one is that understanding of one's own self, as I mentioned in the beginning, that understanding that we are not the body. And then the second level, the higher one, is that the truth regarding the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. That means we understand our Sambandha Tattva Gyan, understanding our relationship with Krishna, because ultimately we come from Krishna and we are his servant. Ignorance can be removed by gradual acceptance of the principles of Krishna consciousness. This is pertaining to the taking shelter of the spiritual master. One is therefore advised to study Bhagavad Gita or any other scripture under a bona fide spiritual master. Yeah, here it is. With service and surrender. So again, approaching the spiritual master, learning from the spiritual master means learning with submissive attitude, service, and surrender to him. So we cannot challenge the spiritual master. Of course, before surrendering to him, there is a period by which we can challenge the spiritual master. We can assess whether he can help us to advance in Krishna consciousness or not. So during that period, during the assessment period, we can challenge the spiritual master. But as soon as we surrender to him, so we are asking to take shelter and start chanting his pranam mantra. So our mood should be changed. We cannot challenge him anymore. Once we accept him as our spiritual master, so we have to follow whatever his words. Of course, his words should be also confirmed with Shastra and Sadhu. Okay, this is a quotation from Srila Prabhupada's lecture. So, a faithful man who is absorbed in transcendental knowledge, this is transcendental knowledge that simply by discharging my duties in Krishna consciousness, all our duties will be performed. Means I will be perfect in productive activities, I will be perfect in knowledge, I will be perfect in mystic advancement, and I will be perfect to understand the absolute truth. This is called firm, unflinching faith. So yeah, Krishna consciousness activities, the result will be surpassing the result of any other practices like mystic yoga practices. Because Prabhupada, one time he gave an analogy, an example, just like a king. When a king is walking, so there are so many followers walking behind the king. So similarly, the result that we achieve in Krishna consciousness practice, that actually surpass everything, and that will include everything. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu prayed, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, because when one is engaged in Krishna consciousness, these three things will come automatically, just like the servant follow the king when the king is walking. Yeah. Dhanam, wealth will come. Janam, follower. Sundarim, beautiful women will come automatically. So, but we have to be remain cautious that we should not be allured by whatever byproducts. Yeah, we call this byproduct, the byproducts of Bhaktivinoda Thakur explained that the byproduct of inattentive chanting, simply by inattentive chanting, all our material desire will be fulfilled. But then that is not our goal in chanting of the holy name. So Nama Parad will give us all our material desire fulfilled. And then Nama Bhasa will give us liberation. And Sudanam will give us pure, loving service to Krishna. Krishna Prema. Yeah. So Sudanam will give Krishna Prema. Nama Bhas will give liberation. And Nama Parad will fulfill all our material aspirations. Therefore, we find in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Vritasura. He prayed to the Lord while he was fighting with Indra, Vritasura. He prayed to the Lord. What is that? Nanaka prishtam na chaparamestam na sarva bhaumam na rasadipatam na yoga siddhir apunar bhavama samanjasa tva virahaya kamsi. So he addressed Lord Narayan as Samanjasa. Samanjasa means the source of all opportunities. So whatever you ask from Narayan, he will give. He is the source of all opportunities, opportunity of becoming whatever you want, provided that you have to be pure devotee. So whatever you want, he will fulfill. But Britasura said that Nanaka Prishtam Nacha Paramestam. I don't want to become the ruler of the higher planetary system, including the position of being Brahma or even in the planet of Dhruva Maharaj. He said, Na Sarva Bhaumam. He doesn't want to become the ruler in the planet Earth. Na Sarva Bhauma. Bhauma means Earth. Sarva Bhaumam. Narasa Adipatyam. Nor do he want to become the ruler of the lower planetary system. Because there is a description in the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam that the enjoyment in the Nagaloka is much more higher than the enjoyment of the demigod. So Nagaloka is situated in lower planetary system. So the enjoyment is surpassing the enjoyment that the demigods can get. And then Nasarva Bhaumam Narasadipatyam Nayoga Siddhim. He doesn't want to get the mystic yoga perfection. Nayoga Siddhim. Apunar Bhavamva. Nor do he want liberation. Samanjasa Tva Virahaya Kansa. The only thing that he asks is simply to serve his lotus feet, Krishna's lotus feet. Yeah. So definitely all these things like wealth, fame, puja, labha, pratishtha will come automatically as a byproduct of Krishna consciousness activities. But we have to remain cautious. Once we get allured by all this material byproduct, then we will fall down. Okay, that's the end of the fourth chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Whether any comment or questions before we move to the next part of our discussion, chapter 5. Any comments or questions? If no comment, no problem. Okay, no questions. Yeah. Okay, there is a question here from Nagarjun Prabhu. How extent we can challenge Guru? We can challenge. Well, I would like to rectify my statement. We cannot challenge Guru because when we say Guru, that means we already at least expressing our desire to take shelter of that particular person to become his disciple. At that time, we already chant his pranam mantra, although not yet being officially initiated. But during the assessment period, I would say like that. When he still or we still his candidate before we are surrendering to him, because we are accepting spiritual master not out of sentiment that, oh, my friend is taking diksha from this guru, so I also want to take diksha from him, or my parents, the disciple of this guru, okay, so I also want to become disciple of this guru. No, because we have to see whether he can guide us or not, because different spiritual masters, they have different mood, and where I'm fitting, okay, where I'm fitting as a disciple, whether my mood and his mood is the same, like this, whether he can encourage me in devotional service. So at that time, we can challenge the candidate, I would say the candidate, before we are surrendering to that person as a disciple. So we can challenge in terms of, we can ask whatever question we can ask. And as soon as we convince that yes, this person can guide me, he can be my spiritual master. So we express our desire. So it is described that the relationship between guru and shishya will be established at that time when there is a mutual acceptance. There's a mutual acceptance between the candidates, disciple candidate and guru candidate. And then the guru will give the permission to chant his pranam mantra. So from that period, our attitude should be changed. So when we inquire something, asking question, we have to inquire in a submissive mood. But before we surrender to him during this period, assessing period, so we can challenge like this. Any other questions or comments? Okay, we will continue to the chapter 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, chapter entitled Karma Yoga, Action in Krishna Consciousness. So this Karma Yoga refers to the Niskama Karma or Karma Sannyas Yoga. Yeah, Karma Sannyasi Yoga means Niskama Karma Yoga or action in Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Srila Prabhupada refer Karma Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, or Krishna consciousness. So in the third chapter, that Karma Yoga mostly refers to the Karma Kanda activities. But this fifth chapter is Karma Sannyas, that means action in Krishna consciousness. Our activities is completely dovetailed to serve Krishna. In chapter 4, the Lord told Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. So this we have discussed in the previous class. Yeah, sacrifice which lead to the transcendental knowledge. But at the end of chapter 4, the Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge. Therefore, by simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and inaction in knowledge, Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. So this chapter will be started by Arjuna asking question that, please tell me one thing, don't make me confused. Yeah. Karma yoga is equal to but easier than renouncing work. Therefore, chapter 5 opens with a question by Arjuna that is similar to the one Arjuna asked at the beginning of third chapter, which is better, work in devotion or renunciation of work. Krishna replies that although the results of renunciation and devotional service are ultimately the same. Devotional service is superior because it frees one from reactions so that one can quickly and easily achieve Him. Yeah. So, Prabhupada said in a lecture, renouncement does not mean voidness. Renouncement is only the negative side. When our spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, was physically present, we asked him whether renounced order of sannyas is nice or householder life is nice. So Guru Maharaj replied that we are going to enter into the household of Krishna. What we have got to do with renouncement. Actually, that is the position. When I speak that don't do this, means don't do this nonsense. Don't do this. Does not mean you give up nice activities. Nobody says don't do this. Don't do this. Means don't do rascaldom. Similarly, renouncement means renounce these material activities. So when Krishna asks Arjuna to renounce the work or inaction, that refers to renouncing from the result. Don't be attached to the result, but he has to carry on his duty of fighting as an offering to Krishna. So that's what Krishna meant. But Arjuna becomes confused and he asks, chapter 5, text number 1. Arjuna said, "Oh Krishna, first of all, you asked me to renounce work." Hmm. So when Krishna asks renounce work means renounce the result. That means don't be attached to the result. And then again, you recommend work with devotion. So we see at the end of chapter 4, we find that Krishna asks Arjuna, equip yourself with knowledge, get up and fight. Now, will you kindly tell me definitely which of the two is more beneficial? In the second chapter, preliminary knowledge of the soul and its entanglement in a material body were explained. So we're talking about Sankhya philosophy. In the third chapter, it was explained that a person who is situated on the platform of knowledge no longer has any duties to perform. Yeah. And in the fourth chapter, the Lord told Arjuna that all kinds of sacrificial work culminate in knowledge. However, at the end of the fourth chapter, the Lord advised Arjuna to wake up and fight, being situated in perfect knowledge. Therefore, by simultaneously stressing the importance of both work in devotion and in action in knowledge, Krishna has perplexed Arjuna and confused his determination. Arjuna understands that renunciation in knowledge involves cessation of all kinds of work performed as sense activities. But if one performs work in devotional service, then how is work stopped? Hmm. So this was confusing to Arjuna, that should I stop working, or as Krishna says that I have to do my job, my duty, but it should be in the devotional spirit. It is Krishna's plan that Arjuna remain confused because their dialogue is actually taking place for our benefit, not Arjuna's. Arjuna's perplexity gives Krishna the chance to stress further that work and renunciation are not opposed to each other. Yeah, so work means carry on our duty. Renunciation means not renouncing the work itself, but renouncing from the result. So that's it. As simple as that. Yeah. Sometimes we are thinking that we are in the Grihastha ashram, we have to do some work and we will become entangled. in this material life. Well, grihesu visatam chapi pumsa kusala karmana madvartaya tayamanam na bhandaya grihamata. So na bhandaya grihamata. Although one is situated in the householder life, griha, but na bhandaya, the activities will not bind us provided grihesu visatam chapi pumsa kusala karmana madvarta yatayam madvarta. So that activity should be offered, the results should be offered to Krishna. Madvarta yatayamana. So in that way we become free from the entanglement of the reaction of our work, especially in Grihastha ashram. Okay, text number 2. Krishna replied, the Supreme Personality of Godhead replied, the renunciation of work and work in devotion are both good for liberation. But of the two, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. So we understand here that actually both renunciation of work means we we work, and renouncing the result that will give us liberation, because the principle is that detachment. Okay, there is no attachment that will bring liberation. Work in devotion also give liberation, as Krishna mentioned here. But out of the two, of course, work in devotional service is better than renunciation of work. Because if we analyze that, okay, both giving liberation, but there is one bonus in working in devotion, and that is Krishna Prema. We get love of God. That's the another. Actually, that's the main result. Working in devotion is getting Krishna Prema, and liberation is just the side effect. Yeah. Fruitive activities seeking sense gratification are cause for material bondage. As long as one is engaged in activities aimed at improving the standard of bodily comfort, one is sure to transmigrate to different types of bodies, thereby continuing material bondage perpetually. Puna Puna Charvita Charvananam. Prahlad Maharaj in the seventh canto described that we are chewing the chewed. So again and again we are experiencing birth, old age, disease, and death. After death, we enter into another mother's womb, and then again, this cycle: birth, old age, disease, and death. So puna puna charvita charvananam, chewing the chewed. So this is the result when we are seeking pleasure in the material world. Therefore, gyan, or knowledge that one is not this material body but spiritual, is not sufficient for liberation. Interesting. So Prabhupada mentioned here that simply knowing that one is not the body cannot give liberation. Well, just like the Mayavadi, they know that they are not the body. Even if they get liberation, that liberation is not eternal liberation. For example, they go to the uh, Brahma Jyoti, but after some time, they will come down again to this material world, because there is no engagement there. There is only voidness. So it seems to be they are liberated, but not at all liberated, because they will come down again to the material world. Just like they, well, we can understand that the Brahma Jyoti is also a spiritual realm. Yeah. It is a spiritual realm, but they will always come back to the material world seeking for pleasure, because there is no pleasure there. The only thing that we experience is that just being alone, peaceful, nobody disturb us. But how long we can be in that kind of situation? So I said that the Brahma Jyoti is spiritual realm, just like enter, someone enters into a country. So when any soul which goes to the spirit, what is that, Brahma Jyoti, okay, they attain spiritual world, but they cannot enter Vaikuntha, just like someone enters into a country, but they cannot enter into a king palace. So they arrive in the kingdom. They arrive in the kingdom, but they cannot enter the palace. So in the palace, there are so many varieties of enjoyment, opulence, like this. So in the Vaikuntha Loka, enjoyment, happiness. But then those who simply arrive in the kingdom find no engagement, no happiness. So they will go out from that kingdom, from that country. So similarly, the Mayavadi is also like that. They arrive in the Brahma Jyoti, okay, that spiritual realm, but there's no happiness there. So they come down again. Without Krishna consciousness, mere renunciation of fruitive actions, sorry, mere renunciation of fruitive activities does not actually purify the heart of a conditioned soul. Yeah. So the main point here is that we have to invest Krishna in all activities. Simply renunciation of fruitive activities, that will not help us to clean our heart, because the tendency of sinning will be remain there eternally if we don't invest Krishna in every activity, if we don't involve Krishna in our activities. So that cannot that cannot really help us to be a renowned person, actually. And what to speak of purifying the heart. Text number 3. One who neither hates nor desires the fruits of his activities is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material bondage and is completely liberated, O mighty young Arjuna. So equipoised, being equipoised in the activities, equipoised in the heat, cold, failure, success, fame and defame, honor, dishonor. So when one is uh, free from material dualities, it is mentioned also by Krishna in the second chapter. What is that? Yam hina vyatayanti te purusham purusarsava samadukha sukam dhiram so amritatvaya kalpate. So samadukha sukam, samadukha sukam. So when one acts equally sama toward dukkha and sukha, distress and happiness, dhiram and remain sober. So amritatvaya kalpate. So he's the one who's eligible to get the amrita, the liberation. So he's eligible for liberation because equipoise, simply being equipoise. Okay. Prabhupada said, knowledge that one is one in quality yet different in quantity is correct transcendental knowledge, leading one to become full in himself, having nothing to aspire to or lament over. There is no duality in his mind, because whatever he does for Krishna. Being thus freed from the platform of dualities, he is liberated even in this material world. See, even in this material world. So how to obtain this uh, equanimity between happiness or distress, between hankering and lamentation? What is that verse in the 18th chapter? Mad Bhaktim Labate Param. How is that verse start? Naso chati nakam sati sama sarvesu bhutesu mad bhaktim labate param. So one who is not hankering for material thing, and nor does he lament when he loses something. So he remained equal. He sees everybody with the equal vision as the part and parcel of the Lord. Mad bhaktim labate param. So he's the one. Yeah, sorry.
Brahmabhuta Prasannatma.
Sorry, can you repeat again?
Brahmabhuta Prasannatma Naso Chatina Kamshati.
Yeah, thank you very much. That verse. So he is engaged in Krishna service. It says there. So when one engage in Krishna service, automatically this hankering and lamentation will be overcome automatically. So one will become equipoised in the material dualities in the material world. Then liberation is obtained, even one still in the material body. Jivan mukta sa uchyate. So jivan mukta sa uchyate. That person is considered to be liberated, although he is still within the material body. Text number 4. Only the ignorant speak of devotional service, karma yoga, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, sankhya. Those who are actually learned say that he who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the result of both. So between Sankhya and Karma, actually they have the same aim, and that is Vishnu. Yeah. So Karma Yoga here refers to devotional service. Yeah. Karma Yoga here refers to the Niskama Karma Yoga, or action in Krishna consciousness. So Sankhya philosophy, ultimately it should be aimed to Vishnu, to Krishna. Sankhya philosophy, like separating between the matter and spirit. So ultimately, one has to understand that he is not the body, he is the eternal spirit soul, part and parcel of Krishna, and he has to serve Krishna. Okay, that's Sankhya. And then Karma Yoga also like that. Whatever activities I perform, it should aim toward Krishna satisfaction. So that's Krishna consciousness. So both Sankhya and Karma Yoga, they're actually aiming toward the same thing, and that is pleasing Krishna. But Krishna mentioned here the ignorant speaks that devotional service and Sankhya, they are different. Those who do not know the ultimate end say that the purpose of Sankhya and Karma Yoga are not the same, but one who is learned knows the unifying aim in these different processes. So just like in our movement, Krishna consciousness movement, there are different gurus, they have different mood in serving Srila Prabhupada. But ultimately, if we see that the goal is there's only one goal, and that is pleasing Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. Because it is a fact that Srila Prabhupada, he gives many instructions. He gives many instructions to different people, to different disciples, in different places and circumstances. And he wrote many things in his books expressing his desire. For example, like Padayatra. So the only purpose of doing the Padayatra is to please Prabhupada and Krishna. Like book distribution also, Harinam Sankirtan, just to please Prabhupada and Krishna. So also cow protection, cow protection. We are protecting cows. It is not for our pleasure. It is for Krishna's pleasure. Of course, one of the effect, one of the byproduct of protecting the cows is to get milk. But that is not the all in all aim in doing cow protection in Krishna consciousness. Because we want to please Krishna, because Krishna loves cows. Gavam kandu yanam kuryat gograsam go pradakshina gochuti tau prasannasu gopalopi prasidati. So when mother cows is pleased, gopalopi prasidati, Krishna Gopal also will be automatically pleased. So whatever activities that we are doing, it should aim toward pleasing Krishna. So we study Sankhya also. Ultimately, we have to reach our goal, which is Krishna's service, service to Krishna. Of course, in that verse, what is that? The 12 Mahajans. Swayambhu Narada Sambhu Kumara Kapilo Manu Pralado Janako Bhismo Balir Vaya Sakyavayam. So Srila Prabhupada, in his translation, when he translate the name Kapila, so he put in the bracket Kapila, the son of Devahuti, because there are two Kapilas actually. There are two Kapilas. One is Kapila, the son of Devahuti, the incarnation of Krishna. The another Kapila is the atheist Kapila. He is also teaching Sankhya philosophy, but his direction is actually toward voidness. Ultimately, God is without form. Ultimately, God is without form. So there is atheistic, uh, there is atheist Kapila, and there is Kapila, the original, the incarnation of Godhead. Yeah. Okay, text number 5. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study, so this is Sankhya, can also be attained by devotional service, and who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. Because seeing the goal, devotional service, acting in Krishna consciousness, or studying Sankhya Yoga, an analytical study, separating between the matter and spirit. So one who is in knowledge, so he sees actually the goal is the same, which is Krishna. The real purpose of philosophical research is to find the ultimate goal of life. By Sankhya philosophical research, one comes to the conclusion that a living entity is not a part and parcel of material world, but of the Supreme Spirit whole. Consequently, the spirit soul has nothing to do with the material world. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. So this is the conclusion of studying the Vedas, of studying the Sankhya philosophy. Veda is Chasarvair Aham Eva Vedyo, to understand Krishna. And yeah, understanding that we are the spirit soul. So we are not the product of this material world. Yaya samohito jiva atmanam triguna atmakam. So those who are confused, they will think that atmanam triguna atmakam. They are just product of this material world. They just appear from the combination of some cells and some chemicals. But in actuality, paropi manute nartam. So we are actually beyond this conception of material life, of the material world. We are the spirit soul. Actually, the nature of the spirit soul is always pure. It is untouched, actually, untouched by the material world, but somehow or other by our false ego, ahankar, and also Upadi means designation, false ego and false designation. So we are thinking that I'm Indonesian, I'm Indian, I'm American, but I'm not actually all these things, but I'm the eternal spirit soul. Therefore, sarvopadi vinirmuktam tat parat vena nirmalam risikena risikesa sivanam bhaktiruchite. So risikena. We have to engage our senses in the service of the master of the senses. In that way, sarvopadi vinirmuktam. All our false designation, upadi, will be destroyed. Yeah, Prabhupada also mentioned here. His actions must be in some relation with the Supreme. Somehow or other, we have to try to connect every activities in Krishna service. Somehow or other. Some devotees ask that, what about we are working outside? Outside means in the karmic company. How we can, you know, dovetail that kind of work in Krishna consciousness? Well, it's easy. Just give half of what you earn from that company to support Krishna consciousness mission. In that way, how actually your activities is connected to Krishna. There is a question here by Nagarjun Prabhu. So according to 5.1 verse, if they want liberation only, devotees and sadhakas can do any type of work and offer result to Krishna, like software engineering or other work not related to Varnashram Dharma. Yeah, I just mentioned it. Like some people who are working in the outside, um, I mean, in the karmis company, like engineering, yeah, by offering the result to support Krishna consciousness activities. Um, that's how actually we are becoming free from the bondage of that action. So the body is purified by water, by taking bath. The word is purified by uh, honesty, satyam, and then the mind is purified by meditation. And wealth, especially those who are in grihastha, wealth is purified by charity. So charity means not giving the money to the beggar. Charity should be also in the right place, giving charity to the right person, to the right institution, to the right place. So yeah, if we are working in some karmis company, which is actually considered to be ugra karma, but of course that is not ideal. Srila Prabhupada, of course, he wanted us to live like to be self-sufficient, taking care of cows, doing some farming, which is in in line with the scripture, Krishi Goraksha Varnijam. But if we cannot, what to do? Yeah, just to offer some result of our activities in Krishna consciousness. So in one lecture, Srila Prabhupada said that Rupa Goswami, he gave the example like dividing 50% of his wealth for Krishna consciousness activities. But rare, it is very rare. So we don't even find nowadays, we don't even find devotees would sacrifice 50% of his income for Krishna consciousness. Well, of course, it is very rare. There are some devotees even, working and giving everything to Krishna. There's no doubt about that. But it is very rare. So Prabhupada mentioned that if you cannot offer 50%, at least 10%, Even then, if you cannot offer 10%, at least something, 1%, you should give to Krishna. That's actually will help us to be purified. And gradually, we will, as we are advancing and becoming more mature in our Krishna consciousness practice, we will really realize it, not only philosophically, but realize it that actually, yes, I have to give up this kind of ugra karma types of work because it is not in line with what Srila Prabhupada wants. And we will have a proper way how to maintain our life. Yeah, like that. So wealth will be purified by charity. And there are three types of charity according to the three modes of material nature that we will be discussed in the later chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 18th chapter, 18 or 17th chapter. Okay, the last verse of today's class. Merely renouncing all activities, yet not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy, but a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. There are two classes of sannyasis. So when we talk about renunciation, so sannyasi will appear in our mind. So Prabhupada in his purport explained that there are two classes of sannyasi. One is Mayavadi sannyasis, the another one is Vaisnava sannyasi. So Mayavadi sannyasis engage in some study of Sankhya and Vedanta and speculation cannot relish the transcendental service of the Lord because their studies become very tedious. They sometimes become tired of Brahman speculation and thus they take shelter of the Bhagavatam without proper understanding. Yeah. So this is like we find in the pastime of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu when he was in Varanasi. So he was criticized by Prakash Nanda Saraswati. Prakash Nanda Saraswati is a Mayavadi sannyasi. So he said that why you look like a sentimental person simply singing, dancing. This is not the business of a sannyas. The business of a sannyas is that you have to study the Vedanta. Therefore, now you have to listen the Vedanta Sutra from me. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, okay, I will listen. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't say any word after explaining everything about Vedanta Sutra. Prakash Nanda Saraswati asked, why you didn't say even a word, whether you are listening, whether you are understanding, or you have some doubt? You didn't say any word. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu replied, actually, with the Vedanta Sutra itself is already clear and I understand it. But listening to your explanation make me more confused because all your explanation is not making sense. So Mayavadi sannyasis, they love to speculate. And Vaisnava sannyasis having nothing to do with material activities and yet they perform various activities in their devotional service to the Lord. Yeah. So the point here is that we are renouncing the result, not the word. Inaction means we simply detach from the result. It's not that we are ignoring the result, no, but we are using it in Krishna consciousness. That's the understanding. Okay, sannyas. Suppose if you simply renounce the world for your certain difficulty, the worldly life, householder life is very difficult to maintain. Now let me become sannyas. I'll go door to door and beg. So this is the wrong uh, mentality of taking sannyas. We should have a clear understanding that what sannyas is. Even if one is in householder life, if he completely engaged in Krishna service, so he is as good as sannyas. Yeah, it's not that we are taking sannyas because we are experiencing a lot of trouble in Grihastha ashram and left the family, leave the family behind. Okay, that's it. It's already 2 hours. Were there any final comment or question before I'm taking your permission to close this class? Hare Krishna. All right, if there's no, you have question, Nagarjun Prabhu, you kindly unmute yourself.
No, no problem.
Yes.
No problem. I don't have any question. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha. Patitanam panebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.